In the recent spending bill, they stuck in a minimum of $15 million to go towards an electric ear tag program that has not passed the rulemaking yet of USDA. A lot of people have some concerns about this program. I have my reservations about it as well. So I wanted to talk to you guys about it a little bit because there's some great things to be said about electronic ear tags, but we really need to consider the implications here. So let's talk about it. Let me pull up a chair. That was pretty easy, huh? I didn't pull up permit. So anyway, these tags, okay? So this actually goes back a ways. If you look at the legislation, this goes back, into the mid-2010s when they've tried kind of passing some of these interstate cattle laws. And I do think that this particular rulemaking is being done in such a way that they're changing the rules to open the door for a whole lot more. Okay, and that's where it concerns me. But basically back in 2020, they wanted to just put out a memorandum just saying, hey, we're updating our rules for the tags that we already require. They now need to have electronic tracking. But that didn't fly too well. A lot of the public comments were concerned about, number one, the cost increases, which they responded with, well, the farmer doesn't need the electronic reading, just we do. So they could just look at the tag number, they don't need the equipment. There were a lot of people that were concerned about, the government overstepping its bounds. And there were a lot of people that just basically said, hey, look, you guys don't have the right to do this under the current rules. So what they've done is they've decided, oh, hey there's a cow bull. Is that Joe? That's Joe. Anyway, so what they've decided is that they're going to, if I had an electronic tag, I'd know which cow that was, right? Anyway, they've decided that they're basically going to change the entire rule. Getting into this particular rule and electronic ear tags. First of all, electronic ear tags, in my opinion, they offer ranchers a significant amount of benefits. Okay, so you can track which field your cows are on. You can keep track. I mean, there's everything nowadays is digitalized. You can get all sorts of apps. I've seen some really cool apps that a lot of farmers use in keeping track of their cattle and bison. And this is mainly, the wording of the bill is mainly focused on cattle and bison, although I believe it's pretty much open to livestock in general. So electronic tags offer a lot of benefits, especially with bison. I've been on many ranches. I've been through, numerous workings of the animals. I've seen people do the older tags that aren't electronic, and then I've seen the electronic tags or where the bison has a chip in their ear and all they have to do is scan it. They get all of this information. The computer, keeps track of everything automatically. It saves a ton of time for the rancher. The question is, should the government have all of that in order to trace diseases? And this is where I think they get a lot of people, because there are a lot of people out there who are very scared of diseases, and they should be. Just ask the ranchers down in Texas, okay? They've spent decades, sometimes generations, building the genetics of their herd to have the perfect product to bring to market, to make them somewhat unique compared to everybody else. And then in a matter of hours, it just gets burnt up. And that could happen with diseases, especially like foot and mouth disease. There are a lot of diseases, tuberculosis, that could spread very quickly across the population of bovine, which would impact both bison and cattle. And it could have devastating consequences. So the government sells this as this is for public safety. We hear that a lot. This is for the safety of everybody. We need to be able to track where these animals came from, where they're going, et cetera, et cetera. And on the face of it, it sounds very good. It sounds like, a necessary thing. And like I said, there are a lot of people who are very concerned about disease transmission, people bringing diseases from one place to another. And really when it comes to interstate movement of any bovine, they have to be vet checked. All livestock has to be vet checked. And when you bring bison out of a national park and you're bringing them to reservations, they have to be quarantined. And if you're a rancher or a farmer, you yourself should technically have a quarantine area for new animals instead of just mixing them right in. I mean, all of this is just smarts and brains, right? But do you have to have electronic tracking to do all that? And is the rulemaking opening the door for a much further reach, something that could really impact the future of the cattle industry? For example, carbon credits, right? We've been trying now, but the government has been trying to put this idea out there that we can create an entire financial system around carbon. And they've also put this idea out there that cows are bad for the environment. And so if we could figure out where the cows are, how often they're grazing in certain areas, and we can tax people based on their carbon footprint, tax the ranchers based on their cows. There's a whole slew of reasons why you don't necessarily want the government to constantly have access to your cow's information. And I think that, the way that this is reading, for example, they removed the description of RFID tags and mentioned that they reserve the right to utilize any future technologies with these tags. And there are tags out there. There are developers of tags out there right now who are working on tagging systems, and they do have some tags that can track now in short distances, but there's groups that are working on technology to have these tags be able to be tracked via satellite, much greater distances. Once those tags are in the system and the USDA says you have to put that tag on your animal, then they'll know exactly where that animal is at all times. They'll know exactly what the population of cattle is on your ranch. There's a lot of things that the government doesn't have any business knowing that they're going to know. And then they're also going to have access to all your vaccination records, right? We want to get mRNAs into every single cow because it's for the safety of the bovine population. And they'll be able to track all of that in a database and know which cows have had it, which cows haven't had it, because it's become all electronic and it's all passed through their system. They've got access to that information now. So that's where I think there's a bit of an overreach. I think that for ranchers in general and people raising large amounts of livestock, electronic ear tags is an incredible thing. I mean, it's fast-paced. It's amazing how you can keep track of your own herd. I don't think it's the government's business to keep track of your herd. I think you're operating a private business. I think that when you move cows across state lines, there should definitely be a vet check like there have been. There should definitely be paperwork like there has been, you should definitely put new animals on your property into a quarantine for a period of time to make sure that they are safe to enter the population of the rest of your herd. But to give the government so much access because some people are afraid of the transmission of diseases, and knowing that this rule is not just, I actually agree with the USDA a little bit. I think that they could have just put a notice out under the previous rule and required that the tags be electronic. I think that the rule was fine that way. Reading the changes that they're making to the rule now, I believe that they're opening up the door for a heck of a lot more. And they know it. They even say it on there. I mean, if you read through it, you can see what I'm talking about. They specifically say, hey, when we're changing this rule, we're giving ourselves the opportunity in the future to require X, Y, and Z. And I don't like that. I have a problem with that. I tend to be somebody, though, who leans more towards less government involvement in all fields of study. But I also think that there's been a aggressive movement against traditional proteins in our food supply, and I don't trust the situation one bit at all. And that's my opinion. And I don't think if you're raising these animals and this is your livelihood, I don't think you want to put that much trust into this situation. I don't think you want to see this rulemaking go through. But like I said, it was already in the Omnibus Bill. If this rule passes, so let's just say by April 20th, they pass this rule, 6 months from that time frame, you will be required to put these electronic ear tags in cows. Older cows that have had older ear tags, you'll be able to continue to use those after 6 months. Hey, it wouldn't surprise me if they continue to use it for a while and then they say, okay, look, now you've got to transition them all over. This rule only applies to cattle, beef cattle and bison under 18 months of age. So you could still move yearlings without having the electronic ear tag. What's interesting is that they've actually changed the wording with dairy cattle to include the calves, and that again they say is because of safety reasons. But when it comes to the dairy industry, this includes calves. When it comes to beef and bison, it does not include calves or yearlings. There are also a whole lot of executive orders that are tied to this thing and tied to their rulemaking, and I would encourage you guys to look through what those executive orders are and what they mean and why. You know, it gives some more background to other motives as to why they're doing this. This isn't just about contact tracing. This isn't just about, you know, being able to protect people's herds from diseases that move within the bovine population. There are much deeper reasons for doing this. And one of the reasons what they haven't flat out spoken of is one that concerns me, and I think it concerns a lot of other people, and that is the aggressive attack on traditional protein sources. And it's at times like these are times when you just got to say, look, we want less involvement from you. We'll protect our own. Anyway, I got to get back to work. We're having ribeyes tomorrow. My daughter brought her boyfriend home from college, and we usually cook our ribeyes over an open fire. So I've got to cut up some more firewood. This tree has been waiting to come down. It's been screaming at me, I'm dead. And I decided to take it down today because it's going to give me some nice aged wood. And then we've got some oak that we'll throw in there after we get that fire nice and hot. And basically what we do is we create a bed of coals under the grate where we're going to cook the steaks, and then we move the rest of the fire off to the side so you can just kind of feed it under. Of course, you know, the way I eat my steaks, it's only a couple minutes aside and that's it. Let me know your thoughts on this electronic tagging, and you know, feel free to be blunt about what you think they're going to do with it. I think that people need to understand that all of these things, you know, when it comes to, you know, gun laws, when it comes to just about anything under the sun, they always open the door for more. And so eventually you kind of have to put your hands up and say, stop, you've gone too far. And I think that this electronic tagging, like I said, is fantastic technology for the private rancher to manage their private herd. The last thing we need is the government being able to pull records based on an electronic tag and telling some rancher, hey, you didn't give your cow that mRNA. Hey, that you got too many cows in that pasture over there. You're overstocked, we're taxing you. Hey, you're putting out too much CO2 in that field. I mean, come on, think about it, people. Think about what happens when you give the government that much data. It just gives them reason to regulate more, or it gives them an opportunity to come after you for something, whether it's something you've done or not. And you don't have to agree with me. I mean, some of you might think that this is fantastic. This is the best thing on earth because now we'll know where all the diseases are and we'll know how to stop them, and we'll be able to stop those people who don't like to give their cows vaccines. You're welcome to your opinion. It's not mine. One more thing here that I wanted to throw out there because I want to be honest, and I don't want you guys to be freaking out about something that may or may not affect you. But currently, these laws only affect cattle that are being moved across state lines. That's the way I understand it. Now, like I said, everything is a step in a direction, okay? So, and realistically, you know, with a lot of us who buy animals and sell animals and trade animals, at some point in time, those animals go across state lines. And even if you were to buy an animal locally, if that animal ever crossed state lines, it's going to have an electronic ear tag in its ear, and the next time you call the vet out, they're going to scan that tag. And as you know, because of some regulations that were passed about a year ago, there are a lot of medicines and things that you cannot give to your herd yourself anymore. You can't even get them. If you can, it's very difficult to get them. They're trying to do away with herd managers, ranchers, from being able to manage the health of their own herd, and now you have to call a vet to implement a lot of different things. So those are all things that I think you should keep in mind. And if you do end up buying a cow that has come across state lines, has the electronic tag in its ear, and you put it into your herd, and because you like the genetics or whatever, then I mean, basically that the record of that cow going forward could be a reflection of how you've managed your whole herd if your whole herd isn't in some sort of program. So there's a lot of different things that I think we need to be careful of here. And I don't think just because it's a law that only affects cows that go across state lines means that we should ignore it, okay? Because it does impact everybody at some point in time.